Well, greetings everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of MBTV News, otherwise once upon a time known as Metaworld News. Probably still is, depending on the mood I'm in, really. But anyway, it's MBTV News for this week. And this week is actually, well, today's Sunday, and it's actually the very, very, very last day of April
Wow.
2023.
Wow.
So, were it tomorrow, it would be May, the 1st of May, May Day. And of course, here in the UK, that's a holiday. But for now, we still are at the end of the month of rain. But you wouldn't believe it. It is hot and it is sweltering, and the heaters
Mm.
are off and the windows are open. And I will wake up tomorrow frozen in my bed, covered with snow, no doubt. Anyway,
We never know. We never
yeah,
know.
you
So
never know.
strange.
Anyway, we bring you news here about virtual worlds and immersive spaces online, plus the sort of technology and haptics that get us to such places. And yeah, that's about it, really. Today, as I said, is the 30th of April. So the news highlights we're going to be bringing you are for, technically at least, the week ending the 30th of April. We have a couple of blogs to put on screen which actually cover the week before that, but you'll see them when we come to them, as it were. So that's about it. My name is Mal Burns, if you don't know, and joining me here is James Atlloud, if you don't know. Welcome, James.
Hello, Mal. Here we are again
Here we are again. I
in our
hear the song.
virtual selves.
I hear a song coming on there somewhere, but I will leave. I will leave that until you've got your finger on the soundboard.
All by
Right.
myself. All by myself.
Believe it or not, Discord have actually just launched an inbuilt soundboard. No, I haven't tried it out yet.
All right. All right.
It's got to be there somewhere because I'm a Nitro user on Discord. So no, that's cheating. That's yours.
That's mine.
That's yours. Oh, hello, pussycat. Come back and I'll stroke you after the show. Yes, be a good pussy. Right. Forgotten where I was now. Oh, yes. James handles all our technical wizardry here. In other words, my avatar, and another view of my avatar, and another view of my avatar, plus a view of my desktop, and whatever I got running on the desktop to show you at the same time. Plus all sorts of other things, including audio as well. Yes, the
Mm-hmm.
list is endless. There's nothing that doesn't go through the James machine on its way to you. Doubtful. Anyway, let's get on with it, so to speak. Um, I think I will start with Mastodon. Mastodon.social is where I have a feed. It's called MetaWorld. And I post all sort of interesting videos, long form videos there too. They do get relayed to my Twitter account, which you'll find at twitter.com/Malburns, Malburns. So if you want to view the videos, you can choose Twitter or Mastodon, basically. But I use Mastodon just to sort of keep it separate. I'll prompt you about that stuff later on, but for the moment, I'm going to open the Mastodon thing, and with a bit of luck, that will actually now have appeared on the screen.
Yeah, it looks good
Um,
here.
oh yes, it has. Right, it did. It is. Yes, fair enough. I just realised there's a bit that I shouldn't have here, but never mind. So much for my adjusting my measurements, but there we go. There we are.
Well, I see the sign in up there, and that one always concerns me, but hopefully that's all right.
Yeah. Yeah. It can't happen.
Okay.
Well, actually, if somebody's watching, they probably could try, but they won't get very far if they don't know who I am. Right, they'll just end up with an advert saying, "Do you want to make an account somewhere?" Okay, moving down, moving down. Yeah, I'm going to find a better way to view this, but we can't at the moment. I was panicked this morning because I thought, oh God, I bet you I didn't catch Upload VR.
Oh, okay.
But I had already. So this is the second entry for the week. There's just the first entry when I checked doesn't have the embed code. Don't ask me why. But
Hmm. Hmm.
yes, Upload VR are back for the third week, I think now.
Yeah, yeah.
James, will have your thoughts on this. I think I also we heard the reason they were down as well, didn't we?
Yeah, they were. Well, I think they're just busy with the continued work on the studio and then rebuilding the website. That was the big thing, and they're building functionality that helps them in the studio on their website. And I
Right.
can certainly understand. Similar to how we're using ScreenLeap to get an external feed into our virtual world. But I thought what was interesting, what I heard in this is that they were talking a little bit about the layoffs at Meta, And I mean, across all of really high tech corporations, there are so many layoffs. But they were both convinced that Meta is not leaving the VR game. So they're convinced that there's still a lot that Meta has committed to, and especially work with game studios. They're expecting that Meta is going to be very, very aggressive on the Christmas season for getting out headsets. And then, of course, their Quest version 3 is from Meta is getting a lot of speculation. So
Yeah, I read a few notices about the next one saying it's going to be very affordable. Whether
right,
that
right,
whether that means it's going to be crap or
right. What does that mean? Yeah,
consumer crap, or whether it means they're going to subsidize it somehow.
yep,
More information coming about the Apple one too, which
right, right.
remarkable amount because that may well be out by the end of June. Well, shipping by the end of June, and despite its expense, apparently it feels like it's an iPad on your eyes. It runs iPad apps plus its own apps, and also allows you to. Well, I was looking at the specs, but it's going to be the beginning of June before Tim Cook stands on the stage and
Yeah,
announces it.
we need that announcement. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's got to happen.
too much speculation. I don't
Yeah,
like.
I like the
Um,
speculation that the battery will be a separate pack and not in the
yeah,
headset, which makes so much sense. The battery adds so much weight. So
yeah. I wonder whether it will run from an iPad if you need it to, or
yeah,
iPhone
yeah,
to use that engine.
yep,
Although I expect the drainage on the battery wouldn't be much higher, but
yep,
yeah. But I think you can wear it on the waist, and you can also clip it onto the headset. But I
yeah.
mean, why would you want to clip it onto the headset if you don't have
If you
to?
want to
So
take the weight off, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Although I must say, one that clipped onto the back of the head, right, might be more reasonable
Well,
to
that's where
keep
my
it flat.
Quest headset is. I've got the battery on the back of the strap.
Right.
Yeah,
So it gives it a little bit of
a
weight
little
balancing.
balance, right?
Yeah, so it's like putting a hat back a bit.
I think
Yeah.
the most exciting thing would be Reality OS, which is the rumored name of the VR software that would be in the
Yeah.
headset. And of course, OS operating systems are Apple's forte, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's like the iPad OS is actually iOS tweaked for the iPad now.
Right, right.
iOS actually in its pure format is really now only for the phone,
Yep.
but it's tweaked for iPad. And from what I gather, Reality OS will be iOS tweaked for the helmet or
Yeah.
whatever it turns out to be. I won't call them glasses, but I won't call them helmets. It looks
Yeah.
like it's a visor of sorts. Anyway, moving on from that.
Well, and
Yeah,
if that name sticks for Reality OS, I can't wait for you to have some insight on Apple making reality.
it
Reality is now defined by Apple.
Well, I mean, we used to say that about virtual worlds, and still do, really.
Yeah, yeah,
Everything in a computer is just is a tool, and the idea that you would have a piece of software which took you to a virtual replica of either the real world or a complete fantasy world, if you consider that to be a tool, then virtual reality is simply an alternative reality that helps you do stuff while you're in the other reality. So it's more like a parallel reality.
hmm
And, a lot of people said, no, there's no such thing as virtual reality. It's all reality, But, you get all these strange philosophical questions or arguments, whatever happens, really.
yeah.
There is a link I didn't get, which came through this morning. Well, I got it this morning, but it's not in the post for the show, about the incredible, massive losses Meta actually sustained in the
hmm
first quarter.
hmm
In
Right.
the first quarter. Most people look at it said anybody else would have gone under with this project, but
No.
Zuckerberg does seem to be ploughing on with it. So
Yep.
there you go.
Yep. I think so.
Okay. Yep. So moving down this list, anyway. This was back on Tuesday. This was published, but if you follow me on Twitter or Mastodon, you can pick on the play thing, and as you can see, it plays it, and then you can pause it if you don't want to watch it or go back. But I'm not going back because I want to go down the list. I keep making that mistake. Also yesterday we had This Week in Exiles podcast with Charlie Fink, Ronnie Abovitz, Ted Schillerwitz, and a long advert as always at the beginning. Yeah, interesting talk, all the stuff of the week. Well worth a watch. They you can it's an overview thing, but quite techy. You get they've got their little niche, and you can sense it. I mean, it's become a bit more of a discussion now. Ronnie Abramovich has joined the other two, but yeah, it's a good watch. But of course, you can get a lot of the content in Charlie Forbes, sorry, Charlie Fink's Forbes listing, which we'll get to in a bit. Okay, going on down here. I've posted this one before. I didn't do it regularly. Maybe I should, but this one again was end of the week. This is the Next Dimension podcast, and or Next Dimension banter, maybe we should say from that. Uh, happy fun times, super happy fun times. You would think it's a gaming cast, and I suppose it is in a way, but it doesn't really tell you much here. PMAX Crystal, I'll give you an idea. It's actually sort of like a recorded Zoom call, and they are actually talking about a lot of technology side of things rather than just games. I know PMAX Crystal is a headset device, for example. I believe Banter, I think, is an app of some sort. But there was some interesting sort of stuff there. In fact, I will toggle it quickly. Yeah, that's what I wanted to know, but you probably don't. It's 2 hours 40 minutes long. This show.
Mm.
So
A challenger.
imagine if I was going to play it here. But yes, that's the Pimax Crystal headset. So they've got adverts for other videos there at YouTube about the technology. But yeah, I think that's pretty good anyway. Right, earlier in the week, the IEEE Metaverse Congress had their 11th session, which was actually about 2 weeks ago. But they just got round to putting up the video from it. It's an advanced metaverse for economic growth and sustainability, and various people sort of talking about that, including the one CEO from somewhere. I haven't got it listed in the thing, but anyway, interesting, especially if you're interested in the more academic side or scientific side of all this stuff. Yeah. And moving on down, another interesting talk. Now, this is Ted Schilowitz from Charlie Fink's podcast there again. And this was him on a panel at South by Southwest. And where has it gone? Hang on. I'm getting lost here. Okay, VR download. That is another version of the one we started with, but it didn't have an embed code, so I missed it and posted it again. Here we are. The future of entertainment and immersive experiences. This was at South by Southwest. And I can't forget who the host was there, but that's Charlie Schilowitz from it's on Paramount Pictures, I do believe. But he's Charlie Fink's co-host on the Weekly XR podcast. And then finally, 5 days ago, another edition of the VR Crewcast. The guys from Mixed Realities show. We haven't had one of their shows for a while, but
No,
the two of them are both on camera every week in this show. This has got a sort of wider berth, but there they are. Between realities, sorry.
You're still stuck with that name on Twitter too, aren't you?
There they are.
What is it? What?
Got to shut them up. But sadly, it's Bradley. He's another well-known podcaster, I guess. So a whole group of them sort of appear here, and sort of it's like they're all there together. Skiva and VR and everybody, and they're the VR crew or crewcast or whatever you want to call it. The only thing they don't have is crew cuts. Aha. Right, moving on. Or the augmented reality conference, whatever. They have nights all over the world, sort of just evening sessions and stuff. And this one is the one in Florence last week, I guess, earlier in the week. Florence, XRAI and the future of technology. We've got what's I can't remember her name. I think Scarlet Ghost may be in here too, actually. Yeah, Cecilia, there she is. Yeah, and there's Anthony Vitillo. And they've got various other people later on.
Welcome to AWN.
Ow! Cue the music, James.
Oh, didn't think that was real.
No, that was totally unplanned. You weren't meant to have picked up on that, but I suddenly thought, oh, what fun! We'll do a background noise of the ghost. Anyway, yeah, Cecilia, she's the other Italian hot blogger, as it were, in XR. But yes, they have various other people coming in there, as you can see. There's different guests.
Real.
No,
Not.
that was totally unplanned. You weren't meant to have picked up on that, but I suddenly thought, oh, what fun! We'll do a background noise of the ghost. It's like an evening, maybe once a month they have it, and everybody VRXR that's involved with or
Mm-hmm.
what have you. So quite nice. And yeah, and then 23rd of April is the previous Charlie Fink show. So we've obviously done with that lot for now. So let's see, without further ado, let's go to some actual web links, which I've got further up here of what's happening. Now, this one is, I tweeted it and I put it up here. Purely for the fans, because I know that James is, but I also know that it seems everywhere we go in virtual worlds, there are Trekkies.
Oh yeah.
So you can now tour every single Star Trek
Oh
Enterprise
yeah.
bridge from your browser, including new concept versions of the Starship Enterprise. And these are proper 3D spaces. You can walk in, wander around, sit down on the seats, piss around with the control panels, and do everything you need. This is the Roddenberry archive.
Mm-hmm.
Roddenberry, of course, was the original creator of Star Trek, and it's all run by his estate, and some of his offspring are involved too, I think, as they would be.
Eugene.
Uh,
Yep. Yep.
yeah, it's a free web portal, so it won't cost you anything, this one. And it allows you to tour every single iteration of the USS Enterprise bridge. Not the whole ship, unfortunately, but you know what fans are like. I've been to several open sim visits here on the group we're on now, which have the bridge of the Enterprise and other starships on them, and they're very popular. As soon as something like Safari gets here, everybody's sitting down, jumping around, and sort of speaking in a strangely new language like
Yeah.
"beam me over,
Yeah.
beam me over, Thirza." Ooh, did I give something away there? No, never mind. Okay, that's a different show I'm talking about. But I put this up because I know how many Star Trek fans are out there, and they might miss this, and I'm sure they'd like to see it. And there's even a little video there that you can play that tells you about it, but that's 8 minutes long, and that's not where I'm going today. Okay, maybe I'm going to go move down rather than up here because I got them in the upside down order again. Okay, the place where we always start, nearly always start too. You just saw him on video, um, and here we are again. Tony Tony Vitillo's weekly updates at the beginning of the week, which actually covers the week before the last week as we're referring to it. Anyway, Tony Vitillo, Portillo's a partition.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, he's otherwise known as the Scar Ghost, and this time he was expecting it, I think. So,
Yeah. How?
yeah, it's the wolf rather than the ghost, but never mind, never mind. So, looking at the Pico headset, which it must be because it says Pico, yes. A few interesting pieces from XR News, Pico 4 Pro in China, whatever. Tim Corker, it looks like he's saying goodbye, but I think he's I think he's saying I'm coming soon. Apple headset will be running iOS apps. Apparently that is sort of well, it's an official rumor, shall we say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Too much is leaking out. But when you actually think of all the main iPad apps, the built-in ones like calendar, contacts, files, home control, mail, maps, messaging, notes, photos, reminders, music, news, weather, stocks, and everything, you can see potentially useful is going to be FaceTime, of course, Freeform, which is their recent collaboration app, which is well, you can. It really expands virtual space for you, to be honest. All their work apps, Apple TV built in, so you better watch TV. Apple Books for reading, Fitness Plus, which will be rumored to be a paying sort of subscription service, Siri and multitasking and camera app. But according to the sources, yeah, it should work with similar way to HoloLens, and your voice and hands could be used for input. And the other major thing, I don't know where it is here, but apparently it will operate as plug and play with a Mac as well as iOS. So if you'll be able to hot swap a screen on your Macintosh, like the one I'm showing you now, I'll be able to hot swap it into the visor, just like that. Most Mac apps like iOS, iPhone, iPad OS, Mac OS, and even Apple TV OS do intrinsically work together because they're all built on a similar foundation, except for the Mac OS, but that is more and more becoming compatible with iOS. So, yeah, anyway, yeah, we'll hear more about that within the next month, that is for sure, because their big announcement day is about a month away. Other relevant news: Meta layoffs affect the internal VR game studios. As I said this morning, there was another report on just how much Meta have apparently managed to lose over 3 months. Yeah, people are not happy here. Well, what makes me angry is that 40 people, around a third of the studio, have been fired. This is just one studio, of course. Pimax begins shipping, the portable headset, Beaker. The Beaker one sounds very good. Horizon Worlds, of course, well, that's another one branded by the 4-letter word. Who knows? Snap is a 4-letter word, but it doesn't belong to the other 4-letter word, so I will mention it by name. Snap. It's got a new AR feature for business. I always think of Snap as a consumer product, but it's for business too. Anyway, and just to round up, I'm not going to dwell on this. I never normally do. We've got a little bit of extra time this week, so the temptation for me to go down the rabbit hole is temptation indeed, but I'm not going to. So, you'll find the XR Week Peak at thescarredghost.com, SKARREDGHOST.com. And I'm going back to the top again because I completely forgot to tell you where to go to beam up. If you wish to beam up to the Enterprise,
okay.
the site you need to go to, or at least to find this review and then click away on the links, is reviewgeek.com, REVIEWGEEK.com. So beam us up, Rodenbury, whatever. Right, let's remove that item and come down the list again. We've done Scarred Ghost. Okay, this is more or less for education. This is well, it's not a podcast, but you can actually listen to the article by clicking the listen button here. Future prospects and considerations for augmented reality and virtual reality in higher education academic technology. Well, that's a handful for you, isn't it? This isn't kid stuff, obviously. To coin the phrase, higher education tends to be university level, if not higher. But it's an educational roundup about uses of the technology and stuff like that, definitions, modes, characteristics. Many of you will probably know all this already if you're interested. Others may just may not, but when it comes to education and academia, you often sort of go and check things out. And if you're not actually in that line of work, you find yourself reading a foreign language. So if you don't know about this stuff, it's a decent roundup. This one is in English or American, as the case may be, which is a bit more accessible than academic language, to be honest. But yeah, anyway, just interesting thing to read about. A few pictures to toss it up. Quite a long article too, as you can see from my scrolling. Yeah, if you're interested in education, I would think at any level, but particularly the higher levels, then definitely want to watch there. And what is that headset? I do believe it's
I
not.
don't know. Yeah.
Not a 4-letter word one.
I can't see the picture well enough. Let's see.
Yeah, I can't really. It's just the bit on the front of the.
It almost looks like PlayStation VR. That doesn't seem possible.
Oh, it could be. There's
With
a
that
lot in
swoop up on the side. Yeah.
Yeah, it might be. There's a lot in PlayStation. Anyway, as you can see, it's a long article. I'm not going to even scroll down it, let alone read any of it out to you. A good article to read anyway. And you find this on the odd address here. It's ER, that's the letters, ER dot EDUCAUSE dot edu, EDU. So educause, but it's er.educause.edu. And as I say, you can also listen to it.
Yeah, that's a well-known domain to educators.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't come across the prefix ER before, but yeah. Yeah, so if you're lazy sod like me, you can also listen to it, of course. Right. Not video, but just nice. Right. two posts at Substack this week from Philip Rosedale, who of course founded the 20 years ago. In fact, it was founded 22 years ago as Lindenville, but Philip Rosedale founded Second Life and Linden Labs, of course, by default. He's got some interesting thoughts here, or thoughts on how we might be stuck in this mortal coil. He's doing a lot of thinking and writing recently, for sure. He says he's defending the fact that he is at least qualified to talk about this subject. I worked for 25 years on uploading people into virtual worlds as avatars, which is about as close as we've gotten yet to the actual idea. He talks about his background and all the rest of it, but then it's thoughts on basically thoughts on being stuck with reality or escaping to virtuality. Very philosophical kind of. He's wearing his philosophical hat most of the time at the moment. You'll find this at philiprosedalesubstack.com. So it's PHILIPROSEDALE.substack.com. And I'm not going to read that out again. Although I would remind you that if you want to follow any of those things, you can actually look me up on Twitter at twitter.com/malburns. And the links you'll find there, self-explanatory, but they will actually take you to the exact page you need rather than just the site. Now, the reason I say I'm not going to read that out again is because I'm just going to scroll up my list here and I've got yet another blog from exactly the same place. This time it's not so much the philosophical thing as the economic thing. It's philiprosedale.substack.com and this post is called Money, the Startup. And it's we're using a broken money value system for 2,500 years. What comes next? And some interesting thing. He wants you to think of money as being a startup. And there would have to be a pitch deck that would start by identifying opportunity. It gets complex, actually, although I'm quite a big fan of this. And if you, I have 2 servers on Discord, both of which incorporate this. Something he and his son August are actually behind, which is called Fair Share, it's based on universal basic income, and at the moment it's not tied to any real world currency, although there's nothing to stop you artificially tying it yourself. But it does allow for kind of trading of goods and services, especially when they're totally virtual, and it also, of course, works everywhere. You could sell a product made in mesh to one platform and somebody to sell to somebody else on another. It's potentially quite a lot going on. Anyway, this is another exercise in explanations. I love the fact he's digging out the original definitions of money. Apparently it's make coins out of precious metal and give them to soldiers. And then tell conquered citizens they need the soldier's coin to pay back taxes or die. It's got a nasty history as this money stuff. It still is pretty nasty in some ways, it's best. Anyway, that's quite interesting too, but it's the same site as the other one, philiprosedale.substack.com. So 2 very interesting articles. This one's more about an alternative economy. The other one was really just philosophy about virtual beings and virtual existence. So let me remove that from my list and go back down here. I'm sorry, just talking you through the fact that I'm deleting some items so I can find where I was. Right, roadtovr.com, here we are. Used from there, Magic Leap version 2 now supports OpenXR, strengthening industry against potential Apple upheaval. Right, OpenXR is one of the standards that is commonly used across extended reality worlds, which are usually they're web XR, OpenXR, but not exclusively. And Magic Leap were one of the original sort of developed in secret headsets that were hyped for the awful before they even really made an appearance. But they've now got OpenXR support, and some people reckon that the choice of this is timing, and moving it to open common ecosystem is actually a kind of advance reaction to the fact that they're a bit worried about in the next month Apple are going to be dominating news of when it comes to all this stuff. So they're getting their end in early, shall we say. Oh, isn't it exciting? Only a month for Tim Cook to come on stage and let us all down. Right, okay. You'll find this at roadtovr.com, roadtovr.com. And they got that little roundup there. xrtoday.com. I think we've got a few from them. Yeah, we've got quite a few from them here. First of all, this is a roundup of the XR healthcare market map for this year. It's what it says it is. It's just a roundup of the market map. It's probably of no use to you whatsoever unless you're interested in healthcare, be that medical clinician kind of thing, or maybe it's social services or wellness care VR, Rocket VR. The works. They basically got a whole load of stuff that's up and running in that sphere of activity. So if you're into healthcare, Medicare, medical VR, stuff like that, then this could be quite interesting for you. It's at XR Today, which is xrtoday.com. And since I've already read it out for you, I'm going to go to two more, which are at the same site, so I don't have to repeat myself. Isn't this clever thinking, folks? Mm-hmm. Right.
Efficient.
Metaverse XR, today's expert roundtable. This is again XR Today, and they report on the latest extended reality news from around the whatever. Yes. Hottest topic last year. The metaverse technology has not swept away the public's imagination quite like the metaverse for a while. I'm not sure the public has actually noticed, but certainly the tech industry has. Right, many consumer-led M-words. Anticipation was led by firms such as Four-Letter Word, which completely rebranded based on its metaverse predictions. Companies and metaverse experts frequently use Ready Player One and other mainstream media examples to help audience digest what the M word could possibly mean. Okay, so they can't even spell panelist, can they? Look at that. Panny, the site called Panny. I think it's I think it's a European sort of chocolate or cake. Anyway, apparently there's a cake called Synergy XR and a cake called Vibella. I know Vibella quite well. So sorry about calling you a cake, but blame XR Today. Right, anyway, these two guys got together. Alex Holland, who runs VR. He's great to talk to. He's a great guy, actually. And I like Vibella. It's a very straightforward, rudimentary platform, but it is just perfectly easy to get into and perfectly capable of hosting large audiences for business meetings and presentations. Anyway, the two of them get into conversation here, and that's really what it is all about. It's an expert roundtable with two people on it, and that's what you get. And the two people on it are known as panelists. Yes, like it. Okay, xrtoday.com, xrtoday.com yet again. And as if that isn't enough, here's a post at a place called xrtoday.com. Yes, xrtoday.com. Microsoft's metaverse push is blocked by UK officials. This happened earlier in the week. The next day, well, basically, Microsoft sort of tried to make a deal with Activision Blizzard, who are a huge company, but the Competition and Markets Authority here in the UK has blocked the acquisition, which was 70 billion something or other, which provides building blocks for its metaverse. And well, Microsoft announced it and everything else like that without checking the various countries around the world, presumably including Britain, maybe even Europe too, would not allow it to go ahead because it's. We used to call it the Monopolies Commission. We would check that things like this didn't get out of hand. But they've still got feet, and increasingly so. It's possibly one of the very rare things to do with Britain's Brexit situation is that they're now free to legislate without actually consulting with their European neighbours. And certainly don't consult with America. You know, America. If it was America, I'm sure Microsoft could get away with anything. But Anyway, the funny thing is, the next day, Microsoft actually announced that obviously that deal was not going to be going through after all, but they were making they were making another merger thing with another big gaming company, and I forget who it is, but it hasn't come through yet. But I just so you know, Microsoft obviously didn't take the lesson very seriously because all they're going to do is buy somebody else and merge with them instead. So they're just anxious to get into the gaming field because all their own attempts there have been pretty miserable, of course. Okay, and I mentioned about immersive avatars in Teams, which still isn't available here in the UK as far as I can figure out. Yeah. Anyway, so Microsoft have been whatever. I was going to be rude then, but I will refrain. Right. Forbes.com. Of course, I mentioned this by proxy earlier. Charlie Fink, of course, has his weekly text piece at Forbes. Again, it's a roundup of the week gone by. This is a weekend thing, just a couple of days ago, so it's covering the same period as this show, in fact, and tends to cover very different things other than I would, as it were. Yeah, quite interesting stuff in here. Just quickly seeing if there's anything of real note there for me to find, but I can't see anything. But obviously a good roundup. So that's at Forbes.com, Forbes.com. And I did mention the previous post to, what was it called again? XR Today? If you are prepared to wait, apparently Charlie Fink's site at Forbes is a paywall. Most people can get through it apparently, but if you get stuck and they won't let you through the paywall and you don't want to subscribe, apparently if you wait a couple of days, the same article is duplicated at XR Today. So you don't necessarily have to pay for Forbes to get it. It's just Forbes gets it a day or two before anybody else. Read WriteCon. The natural order of virtual spaces. Now, there's something great about that title, except I thought, what does that mean? READWRITE.com, readwrite.com. And they are previewing the phenomenon of the natural order of virtual spaces. Specifically, we address repeating patterns of technical building blocks that, when pieced together like pieces from a puzzle, enable us to work, play, and stay healthy remotely, and ultimately make the virtual experience as good as it would be if meeting in person. And they go into the building blocks. Presence, that's pretty obvious. That's what I always consider the main thing about virtual spaces. But real-time messaging, access control functions, data event management, and offline notifications. Some of the key things like Second Life and whatever don't actually have all these in them. I remember Second Life, for example, had offline notifications for a long while, through Vvox, in fact. Yeah. So you have like a messaging client on your desktop, but they've done away with that now. So you actually have to log into the walled garden to get it. You still get real-time messaging when you're logged in, and obviously you get presence and functions and various other things. So anyway, I haven't got much to say about this. You can sort of see what they're getting at here. And look at ways building blocks are used in gaming, shared mobility, live streaming, asset and fleet tracking, healthcare and telemedicine. So they're covering a wide berth here, so to speak, with the idea. So you'll find this article at readwrite.com, READWRITE.com. And let me just dispose of the ones I'm finished with. And, finished with that one too. So, I've done the expert roundtable. I forgot to delete these. And big XR news from... that's it. That's all of them done, believe it or not. Okay. Voices of VR, I normally cover. Nothing else new this week. The last was on April 18th, which was actually almost 2 weeks ago now. But he didn't make up for it then. He published about 20 interviews, if not 40 interviews, all in one go. It comes in spasms, does our friend Kent. Right. Okay, so moving away from that, the other yeah, the other, I've got some other things here, but they were for a separate show that's not happening after this today. Anyway, for those of you who watch this channel, stay queued for the in-world review. Due to illness by my co-host Thirza Ember, that show will not be happening today. Just for your information, in case you're watching. All right, but we will be back as according to plan next week, we hope. Right. Okay, moving back to the Department of Pretty Pictures, really. Um, I'm very fond of this guy, but yes, there's no real purpose. Right. Um, this is a rather weird one. This is art critics and government officials alike moaning about this a 9 million euro campaign by Italy's tourist industry, Ministry of Tourism. Not only have they nicked Venus as your tour guide and given her an iPhone, but she tours around all these places in Italy, which have been recreated as virtual environments. So she's sort of in them, and well, the art critics and the historians, they really think that it's cheeky. I suppose it's like Great Britain doing this and putting Shakespeare in a suit and having him walk around virtual London or something. They are not impressed. The art critics feel insulted. The government officials think it's a complete waste of money and it just doesn't work. So it is related to this. What I'm not sure about, I was going to ask Thirza to actually translate this for me. This is open to the Miravigilia. Is that something to do with Metavigilia? Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, it's not going down well, but it's worthy of showing you this. And then people are talking about AI, and what the automated services and how it's going to take away jobs for painting and jobs away from authors and things like that. But does that mean it's going to take away from the multi-button procedure of American military and American presidents? Please don't say this could ever happen. But apparently it's scary enough that US lawmakers have decided there needs to be a law to stop AI launching nukes at you. Now, if an AI was even capable of doing that, do you think a law is going to stop it? Please. That is scary. That really is super scary. But yeah, there's an article about that at Ars Technica, by the way. This is just a clip shot from the heading of the article, basically. Just to, I see it, and I thought, I've got to clip that. Got to tell them about that, haven't I? Scary stuff indeed. Right, okay, so couple of clips here to finish the show with. This is described as a love letter to VR chat. VR chat is one of the more popular virtual worlds, and it's not owned by Meta. Whereas it's 4-letter word free. In fact, VR chat, if you look carefully, is actually a 5-letter word. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
VR chat is special.
Yeah.
I've never seen a place like it where tech, creativity, immersion, and raw humanity collide. I can't deny how much it has impacted my own life. And I want to share a little bit why. I've heard people compare it to the early internet days. It's a Wild West, a new horizon, uncharted territory. No corporate garbage, built by and for the community, by real people. This is the real metaverse. I've met so many beautiful souls, people I never would have met otherwise, now lifetime friends I deeply and genuinely love. Inside, you meet the most diverse group of people from around the world, but yet can interact with them as if they're right there in the room with you. This is a place where we can talk and draw and sing and dance and play and live and love with others. We all come from vastly different lives, and this diversity gives fruit to such amazing experiences. This is a place where any idea can be made and shared. We get to escape into the worlds people dreamt about in their minds, explore them and get lost in the stories people want to tell. We get to touch the cathedrals people have built in their minds. The inspiration I get from seeing the creativity of others pushes me to better myself. to learn more, to create more, to tell my stories. I don't think we've ever seen a place like this that gives people the freedom to express their authentic selves in such an intimate way. And that's why I think it's so special. There's something about the social spaces of virtual reality that help people break out of their shells. I've seen it in myself. I've grown so much because of it. I've seen walls of anxiety break down in people, and they blossom. The fact that we have a place like this that brings everyone together in such a unique way is such a gift. And I think that's why I love it so much.
Well, that's great. The only thing is, I mean, I think I'm seeing an advert for Second Life 20 years ago. Well, maybe not 20 or 15 years ago. And it'll plausibly even open sim here. It covers exactly the same territory. And when it said this is nothing else like this, that is patently untrue. But on the other hand, VR chat has been very successful. I've even considered going in there and seeing if it's possible to use it as a base for a show or something. It seems more cartoony at first glance, but in fact, when you look at it, it's just the environments are just as rich as you can create in OpenSim or Second Life, or in well, certainly Mesh Worlds, of course. So it's very exciting, and you know, if I wasn't nitpicking about the fact he thinks the person who narrates that thinks it's the only thing like. I was like, no, actually, Second Life for 20 years ago has been exactly the same thing with all the same facilities. But that is, however, what virtual worlds are all about. That presence thing, that communication thing, and escaping. But whether you're escaping reality or whether you're escaping from the limitations of what you can't do in reality. In other words, if you're going to a meeting that's across the Atlantic, you can meet in a virtual space. That's not escaping reality, although it sort of is. It's escaping the need to get on the aeroplane, which is a very good thing these days, of course. On the other hand, you can escape into complete fantasy, and the fact that all that is able to mix in, a virtual world where you can just travel from one place to the next, and you never know what's coming. Is it going to be realistic? Is it going to be abstract? Is it going to be surreal? Is it going to be an architectural masterpiece? You don't know till you get there, and you don't know about the people you meet when you get there too. So follow something that's of interest, and you may immediately meet people immediately who share that common interest. It's simple as that. It's the logics. Imagine how many people you would know in the real world if you were actually able to click your fingers and go to any place you want at any time that is of interest to you, and you would possibly meet other people who are interested in that same thing. That immediacy of connection cannot be made any other way than online through virtual I'm including obviously messaging systems. It can't be made in boring old reality where it actually takes us at least a couple of hours to transfer halfway around the world. Okay, now, do you remember something called Myst? This was the first thing I ever played.
I know
I'm
you
not
do. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a gamer, but I through Steam and various things, I've downloaded the remastered versions and the sequels and everything. There's some are on the iPad even, and I've even some of the latest thing, Oculation or something like that, and I got completely stuck on it. I want to go back to Myst, but anyway, they keep enhancing Myst, and this is a launch trailer for something called Myst, but it's about 20 years old at least, but it's also a new launch trailer. If you see, hopefully you get the idea. that good in my day. Eh. Stunning, stunning. I vaguely recognise quite a few of the scenes there. There are a couple of bits I think maybe new. That each of the new updates and remasters have tended to include a few extra things, which is presumably a way of getting people who have the originals to get the new one. But that just looks deliriously good. And the nice thing is, it's you can play it on a 2D screen, like you would of the original Mist, although it's obviously a massive 3D environment. But you can also use it in headset land, so you can go full VR with it. And yeah, I'm probably going to have to buy it for the 5th time now, aren't I? I've got so many versions of it, but it's something I would never forget. I'd never played anything like that before. I followed it up by playing something called The Seventh Guest, which was equally in a different way, really quite engaging. But I could never play shoot 'em up games. I always got shot down in the first panel, and I would try for days and days and never get out of being shot down in the first panel. So no, the shoot 'em up's not for me, thank you. unless it was possible to do it in slow motion, which it wasn't. Right, but that looks absolutely gorgeous. Anyway, a final clip today, W2T or WIIT, I'm not quite sure. This is about Metaverse Creation Lab. And, well, I thought it was worthy of a look. Okay, the credits at the end there include somebody called Andy Fidel, the woman, Andy, in fact. She has a blog and she twitters a lot from Second Life, so there's a commonality there. I am not entirely sure. This came through a tweet, if I remember rightly, so there wasn't much information. What is it, 140 characters you get, on exactly what W2 or WIIT is, or even what the Metaverse Creation Lab is. So I'll leave it up to you. If you sort of Google Metaverse Creation Lab, you may have time to find out more than I do. What is intriguing there is it does sound like an interesting sort of project. Clearly, they've chosen 10 creators. And from what we were seeing in the clip, some of it is the worlds they create, some of it's the background of how they do it, and some of it's the design stuff. I'm not quite clear whether that is a competition where there'll be a winner, or whether it's a project where 10 creators have been chosen to work on the team together to build something. For example, is the end result of this going to be a 10-person created virtual experience? Or is it going to be a prize for the winner is really not at all clear. But I thought the clip is just very recent. Came up. I thought that was worthy of showing because it's I wish I knew whether it was a collaboration or competition, and there's no indication of which, unfortunately. But it does look very interesting, whatever it is. And we've reached the end. James, you must have been a Myst player. You must have played Myst.
Oh yeah, yeah. So many kinds of mist.
Well, exactly. But I thought that film makes it look refreshingly different.
Oh,
I mean, you
okay.
really feel, I don't know, to me, you really feel the 3D bit of it.
Yeah, the meta version, in Quest, was very nicely detailed, and then
Yeah.
there's a mini golf version of it on the Walkabout mini golf, and so there's been a
There's
lot
no,
of
no room.
iterations.
Uh, Mist, Mist Island's quite small. Why did they put a golf course, for Christ's sake?
Well, you know, wherever you can, I guess.
I suppose there's so much underground activity in Mist that, defies
Right,
the size of the
right.
island,
There are
actually.
all kinds of places to go.
Yeah,
Right.
there must be an underground golf course somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah. That's where they should. That now talk about uploading people into virtual worlds, right? That's where they should upload Trump and then lock it, so he can live out eternity in a
Right.
virtual golf course.
Yep.
I mean, you can do him a favor. You can give him a little buggy to
Sure.
help him get around his virtual world in.
That's
Yeah.
like the BBC show The Prisoner. Do you remember that one?
Oh, massive McGowan.
Yeah.
What was his name?
Yeah, Patrick McGowan. Yeah.
Patrick McGowan.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Did you ever see Danger Man?
No, I
Right.
haven't.
But The Prisoner was considered to really probably have been designed as a sequel to Danger Man.
Oh,
Because he was like a saint or a James Bondy sort of character.
okay.
And in the final episode of Danger Man, he quits the job. And his quitting the job is pretty much it's the same person. He's just given a number, of course, in The
Yeah.
Prisoner.
All right.
But effectively, the opening scene of The Prisoner is where he's kidnapped, as it were, and sent to the village in Wales, not to
Oh, okay.
described
Yep.
as such. But the end of the season of Danger Man was pretty much the same thing. It didn't include any elements of The Prisoner. The Prisoner came years later, but it was the leaving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Patrick McGowan played them both, so it's a bit like Sean Connery playing something and then an identical role somewhere else with a different name. Maybe it was on a different channel or something. I don't know. But
Interesting. Right. Well, that
it
sounds
was
fun.
to most people it was a sequel, but it's
Yeah.
all pretty primitive. Danger Man was all black and white, primitive filming,
Uh-huh.
and it was all studio sets too. I mean, it was really old time vintage stuff. I mean, at least the prisoner got to go outdoors.
Right. Right.
But yeah, interesting sort of connection there.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's got right into me and say, "I've got it wrong. I got it wrong. It was actually this way around."
Uh,
I don't know.
such
But
is life. Right.
yeah, but no, that was quite good. Okay, well, actually, we're not particularly much longer than normal here, even though we're
Yep. Just
being a
over
bit
an
more
hour. Right.
slovenly, in fact.
Yep.
But we have a bit of extra time today, as I say, because the show that follows this is not actually airing this week. But we are at the end. We are at the end. So, anything else, James, that you fancy chatting about?
No, not really. The you mentioned the affection for VR chat, and how Second Life was there so much earlier, and I keep remembering too that before Second Life there was GeoCities, and
Yeah,
so many people have found ways in virtual spaces to make important, meaningful relationships, and
sure.
as we continue to explore, um, we don't want to forget the work that people have done, and build upon it rather than.
I think the first place I had any kind of presence, although it wasn't the same thing, was GeoCities, which
Okay.
of course
Yeah.
taken over. Was it Yahoo who took it over
Yeah, I was
eventually?
a CompuServe person, so that's kind of how
Yeah,
I started.
it was, and I think the real forerunner of Second Life was probably there.com.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I
Um,
always thought they were very simultaneous, but
I
um,
think so too. I
yeah.
mean, I think Philip set up the lab, Linden Labs, and Linden World
Mm-hmm.
before their.com. But I think their.com would have seen what was happening there and come
Right.
up with
Right.
their.com. And, they, it's a bit like, oh, I forget what it's called now. There's a very teeny world that's been around for a long time, almost as long as Second Life. And, I think I can't talk about them in the same breath because although historically and innovation wise, IMVU, that's the one.
Oh, right.
They
Right.
don't feel like
Mm.
they've got anything in common. But when you think about it, they have the ultimate thing in common. They have a virtual presence
Mm-hmm.
and a
Mm-hmm.
virtual world. But one is drowned out by teens, and
Right.
it's
Right.
more of a kids thing. And Second Life, of course, it had a kids grid well, teenage grid for a long while, but
Yeah.
it's always been pitched as an adult place, which is something that sets it aside from Dare.com or IMVU and some of the early runners. And I think that paid off, not just because, well, it meant people could get away with all sorts of adult things, but when you consider Second Life has literally been, the platform was made by Linden Lab, but the whole world's been built by its users,
Mm-hmm.
and no doubt about that. And many of those artists and creators that got involved there would have been adults, and that is probably why it graduated so quickly. It wasn't kids experimenting with building tools. It was actually adults who, once they'd gone through the learning curve, were serious about creating their art or their buildings or even their jewelry, virtual jewelry. There's
Mm-hmm.
some of that stuff is miniature. Well, it's actually done gigantic size and then miniaturized to fit on the avatar finger. But even so, detail is remarkable. And that stuff, is it took an adult platform to bring that level of maturity to the creations, as it were. I think, but as you say, yeah, that VR chat, sorry, film was, engaging.
Mm-hmm.
If I'd seen that
Mm-hmm.
20 years ago, I'd have gone there and probably never heard of Second Life. I don't,
Oh my.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know Philip. I don't know. He's doing a lot of Rosedale's doing a lot of other things, as I said, with money and philosophy. I think at the moment, but he did mention at one point, and in fact, I asked him about it. He sort of had an idea of doing a podcast or a video cast or something, looking back at highlights over the Second Life period. And actually, well, his Second Life period was only about 10 years. Of course, it's now 20 years. Um, so, um, but there are so many places that are kind of iconic places in
Mm-hmm.
Second Life.
Mm-hmm.
They go beyond Second Life. I'm trying to remember some of the names. I mean, other than the the Ivory Tower Prims, for example, was begun there. But there's some wonderful. Oh, I can't remember their names, but they should be on the tip of my tongue because they're iconic locations. There's a couple of them. Like there's one real natural sort of build. Which actually Linden, it went offline because the person who did it couldn't afford to give it on anymore, and eventually it was actually bought back by Linden Lab themselves, because it was
Mm-hmm.
such a good example. So it's, there are these sort of landmarks that go, beyond the landmarks, and you can't really imagine the world without them. It's a shame. I do have a Second Life feed on Twitter as Malbones_writer, believe it or not, which is pretty much removed from this program. But I do, I just post links to arts and destinations in Second Life as the blogs come up and feature the photo essays and things like that. And this week, there's a big thing called Fantasy Fair
Mm-hmm.
going on.
Yep.
It's raising funds for Relay for Life, and I always used to love it. It's one of the best things in Second Life, but every time I try to go there, it's like hell. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
one of the problems with events in Second Life is I never want to post them because I'm contributing to the lag
Right.
of some of these big things. And the sad thing is that after the fair is over, it's all taken down and gone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not even worth me tweeting the location of some of these wonderful bills because they're only there for a couple of weeks. You know, I consider when I actually tweet places to go to, it's places that people can, you know, look it up in my blog, you know, in 10 to 6 months' time and then go there then. You know, some will disappear as they always do, but you know, I like the fact that landmarks will stay. Maybe not forever, but for a decent amount of time for people to see them. It's like Linden Endowment for the Arts, for example.
Hmm.
You know, that no build on that region ever stays for long, but it does stay often for 2 or 3 months, which gives people plenty of time to go and see it without lagging out all the fellow visitors. So, you know, I'm I tend to make decisions. I'm going on the rabbit hole again, aren't I? But based on that. But you know, when I see something that's just going to be, you know, you're never going to be able to get in and see it properly without lag or anything,
Yeah.
unless you find a magic hour when nobody else is online, like as if, you know.
Hmm.
And you know, and by the time, you know, the big rush to the event has died down a bit, they take the regions offline. Yeah. So I often think this is not just down to Second Life and its notorious lag for things like that. I mean, there's less lag in OpenSim. You can actually get away with that a lot better here. But other worlds completely, you know, um, they put on events, you know, and they announce them and they hype them up. And there'll be something obvious, like the lag thing they've just completely forgotten about.
Yep.
Yeah. Why do you have four separate regions with a stage in one of those regions to hold a big event? Well, so you can distribute the weight across four regions because you know well, one region will crash under the weight of the event. But how many people put on events on that aspires to be that size? Try and jam it all into one region where nobody will be. You know, it's like, you know, what's the point of a virtual world if it feels like a sardine can? You know,
Hmm.
you're the sardine. You know,
And it happens over and over. You know,
it,
I remember going
it,
to the Jar concert. You
yeah.
know, that was in oh, was that in Alt Space? I can't remember where
I
that was.
don't know.
Yeah.
Wasn't it Samsung?
Oh, maybe it was Sansar. Maybe so. But yeah, the lag was terrible. Impossible
Yeah.
to enjoy the event.
And the funny thing is Michel Jarre is still doing stuff.
Yep, he's still going. That's
he's,
great.
he's still going at it,
Yep.
though mostly his own platform, which obviously Skull Ghost is involved with too,
Mm-hmm.
Vroom,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and you know, most of it is pitched in Europe and in France, actually, which is surprising, you know, but, well, not surprising, he's based there, of course. Um, but yeah, he's very keen on that stuff. But I think he and a lot of his ilk have realised that the possibilities for doing a virtual experience are pretty endless.
Yeah.
But you've got to be careful about how many people you have logging into the experience at once,
Yep.
especially if it's based on the web, that's less of a problem. But even so, you've got to be careful about the scripts that are running,
Yep.
you know, on the web page to generate it. And but two, you know, if it's a self-contained thing like an art exhibition, people can go to it in their own time and experience it.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking to me, for example, here in London, the ABBA show that's on with virtual
Mm-hmm.
characters there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's been over, you know, that's going to probably be, it's like a West End theatre thing. It's got its own specially built place,
Built
but it's
building,
going to
right?
be,
Right.
up there. It's going to be up there for years, probably.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to become a you know, a spot,
A
you know.
fixture, right?
Yeah, fixture. And so it should be. And I think, you know, the type of people like Michel Jarre and whatever, mixing vision with their sound and everything else that they do. You know, the immersive online world is an excellent place to break new boundaries. But I think you have to do it as a location that is there when people want it, rather than part of a contiguous world where you can't really do anything with that kind of aspiration without affecting the stability of the world itself.
Yeah.
You know, it's your own world to do that thing in. And, you know, if you're using the web as an XR portal, that is fine. But like you and I, you know, both agree that we like a world where you can literally walk from one place to the next or fly or, you know, rather than necessarily teleport between locations. Because there's a certain feeling that as you walk round a corner and come across something new, it's like going for a walk in an unknown place in real life. You turn
Mm-hmm.
the corner, wow, wow, there's a valley down there with a lake in it. And it's so picturesque. I'll better walk down and have a swim or something.
That's right.
Yeah, that sort of feeling. And if if you come to a photographic, barrier wall around a small region and you can't go any further except to teleport somewhere else completely, it's a very different thing. It's something that even in OpenSim we've got, hosting providers like Kitely, where it's a shame, but every region in Kitely is a self-contained world. You can't walk from one to the other, and it's just something about that need. I teleport everywhere all the while in OpenSim, but there's something about the enforced need to teleport that is not quite right. Doesn't quite hit the mark. And I know you agree with that, don't you? That you like the intuitive space, as it were.
I'm an explorer. I like to explore things.
Yeah, exactly, and root around.
Happen upon experiences. Yeah.
You didn't get much exploring in this week, though. You didn't even get a chance to sit very much, did you? I noticed you adopted a dance partner in one venue, and you ended up bringing the same dance partner to the next venue.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
I don't know how I did that.
Same
Well,
script. Yeah.
Yeah, it must have been the same NPC in the same dance ball or something. But it looked weird. Because how did he manage to bring her with him?
I wish I had that kind of control.
Yeah, it'd be kind of nice if you could teleport somebody with you instead of just saying follow me. Anyway, I think that's it for this show. We're getting way off the beaten track talking about our own personal virtual worlds here, but if it wasn't for those virtual worlds that we're in, we wouldn't be doing this at all. So, this mainstream news aspect of it is a sideline, really. Okay, so we will be back, same time, same place next week. Hopefully you've enjoyed what we've been able to bring you this week. And stay safe. It's beautiful weather here in London. I don't know about anywhere else, but if I was to say stay indoors and go online, it would just sound a bit like, forget it. That's not a real sun.
Right.
That's not real heat. Just stay online. You need to get out and enjoy it, especially this is the time of year where it's actually probably safe to go somewhere and breathe in the air. Until it changes again. But whatever, keep yourselves healthy and do join us same time, same place next week. And do remember, we're on YouTube at Malburn's Metaverse anyway. You can look at our replays as and when you need them. So thank you to James.
Yep. Thank you, Mal. Thank you to you.
And thank you to me too. Yeah, that's always a good idea. That's so nice. Thank you. And we're out of here. So it's a wrap. Stay safe, folks.